Good morning, Facebook. It is Vanessa here again, motivational speaker and head coach from Live, Love and Give. And I'm excited as always to jump on these videos with you guys today. And it's a really special message. And I know I say this every time, but each of these messages are really powerful to me. And I know that they are for a lot of you guys out there because you guys are giving me a lot of information about what is going on for you right now. What are your current struggles? And this message today is coming up so regularly that I just had to shoot this video for you guys. And just want to say a quick hi to everybody who's joined me, Anantha and Alex and Andy. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me. Absolutely love having you here. And my message for you guys today is all about rejection. It seems to be that real fear that is coming up for so many of us, and I can really totally relate to it. So I wanted to, spread this message, which is that ultimately rejection breeds obsession and self-acceptance breeds freedom. But so many of us are caught up in that big fear of rejection, and we're allowing it to hold us back from stepping fully into our truth, stepping into, fully experiencing and doing everything that we want to do in this world, everything we want to create in this world. It's holding us back in our relationships. It's holding us back in our health. It's holding us back in our finances. It's holding us back in every single area of life. So it's a really powerful message. And again, just saying a quick hi to you guys. I love it that you joined me. Gerardo, hope your knee's better. Thank you for coming back. And Sabri, thank you so much for joining me. Awesome, Aneta. Glad that this is good for your Saturday morning like me. And, guys, I want you to ask yourself, because ultimately how we treat ourselves is how we think everybody else treats us. And I really want you to get that. How we treat ourselves is exactly how we think everybody else treats us. That is a really profound message to get your head around, because ultimately, if you're somebody who comes with this fear, I've been meeting so many of you, and you've got this passion, you've got this drive, but you're a bit scared to go forward with it because you're fearful of the rejection piece. What I say to all of you who have that is ask yourself, take back the power. Ask yourself, where in my life am I rejecting myself? And it stumbles people, because when we are focused on the external, we're so caught up in that fear of rejection. We're wondering what people think of us. We're fearful that, they might not like us. We might not be good enough, whatever enough, and we get so caught up in disempowering ourselves and putting that power in the hands of those around us, even if they're strangers, people we love, whatever. We're going for the external validation, and we're getting ourselves caught up in that piece of rejection when we're not understanding that we can't get away from our own experience. If you have a fear, a massive fear of rejection that is holding you back, it is ultimately because you are rejecting either the entirety of who you are or pieces of who you are. And I just want to say, you're a human being. We're all human beings. We all have the work to do in order to break through those limitations, and we can use our fears. I really feel like our fears shine light on what is most meaningful and valuable to us, and it's ultimately where we discover where our best source of growth and reaching that next level of potential is. So when we can recognize, I'm just using an example in today's message about the fear of rejection, when we can identify that that's a limiting belief for us, that we're getting caught up, we know deep down it's holding us back, and we're putting that power into those external sources, and we're getting obsessed by it, because that's what happens when we get caught in rejection. We're obsessed with trying to prove ourselves. We're obsessed with getting that next result. We're obsessed with trying to convert that person in order to like us or love us, We get totally obsessed with the externals when ultimately we're focusing on the symptoms of our own poor relationship with ourselves, our own rejection that we're holding and carrying, through our journey with us. And ultimately, you'll never be free until you focus, you take that power back, you focus on the internal, and, you break free, you work through that. You've got to get to a level of self-acceptance. And I'm definitely here to tell you that, you know, we're all on that journey together. We're all maybe at different points along that journey, but we all have those different things that are holding us back that we haven't yet accepted within ourselves. And I really like to focus on whatever judgments that you have, you know. How are you judging others? You know, what are the judgments that come up for you? You know, when you're walking down the street and you look at somebody and you make a judgment call about them, or, you know, you don't like what somebody said and you make a judgment call about them. Whatever it is, there's so much power in your judgments as well, because ultimately we're projecting what we judge within ourselves. And until you can get to a point where, you know, you're very open-minded and you're not rejecting or judging others, that, you know, it's because you're not rejecting, or you've owned those parts within yourself to be able to get to that point. And just want to say another quick hi and check the comments here. Yeah, and Anantha, thank you so much for joining. I'm going to answer your question today. And Andy, Bill, Jay, nice to have you. Awesome. And Meet, and thank you so much for joining. Self-respect first. Yeah, totally agree, Bill. You know, we're always looking to the external, and self-respect is another great example. So thank you for sharing that, you know, because, you know, we're seeking that respect. We try, you know, it's that rejection piece that drives that drive, you know, to get obsessed with trying to seek something from the external world. And ultimately, until we have that within ourselves, it doesn't matter. And, you know, you guys know I've been reading and really mulling over that awesome book by Robert Holden, Lovability. And I'm really taking my time with this book. You know, I'm the kind of person I like to fly through things, but this one I'm really consciously going through it really slowly and really taking it all in, because in every page there's such, you know, profound messages that, you know, can really shift your perspective and your life. So one of the things that I was reading about yesterday, and it's a funny quote that he said, which was, you know, that no one can love you more than you love yourself and get away with it. And this really ties into that piece around rejection, self-respect, you know, that relationship with yourself. Really think about that. Nobody can love you more than you love yourself and get away with it, because you won't see it, you won't even recognize it, you won't believe it. And until you get that message within you, you know, you won't be able to build the kind of relationships that we all truly desire and seek in this life. So thanks for that comment. And Daniel, thank you for joining. And Sarah, didn't know rejection by others means we don't like ourselves. Taking my power back. Awesome. And I want to talk more into that point. So nobody can reject you. Nobody can reject you if you're not rejecting yourself. Because I'll tell you why that is. So when you fully accept yourself and somebody on the external has, you know, behaves a certain way that would ultimately make a lot of people feel rejected by that person, ultimately, if you're centered and loving within yourself, then you see the behavior for what it is, and you get to a perspective of, because you've been there, you know, we've all been there where we've had to go on this growth journey where we have been rejecting parts of ourselves, and we've had to step more into that acceptance and that love for oneself. So you actually are coming from a perspective of compassion, because you've been there before, and you see the behavior for what it is. You see and have compassion for them, because you know that nobody rejects another when they are not rejecting themselves. Okay? And because you are strong and centered and you've done the work on yourself, you've taken that power back, then you don't take it personally, because it's not triggering anything within you. You just see it purely for that other person's fear. So thank you for that comment, Sarah. I hope that how I'm, you know, talking through it, I hope that it's valuable to you guys. And Laval, awesome to see you again. And Mehdi, thank you so much. Thank you, Ahmed. You rock too. Love it. And Brian, awesome to have you again. I'm glad to have caught you in your evening. And yeah, Sarah, can't believe listening to the insecurity of others, bullying, narcissistic, creates my judgment of others. The cycle ends with me. I love that, Sarah. I love, like, I love witnessing people take back their power, and just like you are there, you know, stop disempowering ourselves and step forward. And I did a post this morning, which was, you know, a really just something that just came to me this morning, which was, you know, ultimately to, you know, take a look in the mirror and stop looking in the magnifying glass. Because when we're looking in the magnifying glass, we're looking at the external. We're really zooming in on the external. We're getting obsessed. We're trying to find the little loophole that will make others, you know, love us, approve of us, validate us, whatever we're seeking and getting obsessed about. And ultimately putting the mirror there instead, taking our power back, looking at those triggers, following those fears, using them as our source of gold, our source of value to fully grow to that next level, to unlayer that next set of our potential and step more fully into it. So I love that, Sarah. Thank you for sharing your strength with me. I love it. Sarah, thank you for joining. And Shang, awesome. And Moyne, love to have you here. And Cameron, so good to have you. I love that you're tuning in from Chicago. Guys, let me know where in the world you are. I love hearing about that. And Judy, nice to have you. And thanks, Sarah. And Belinda, awesome, awesome, awesome. Guys, you know, let me know, you know, is this something that you have been struggling with? Are there any questions that you have in terms of that rejection piece, in terms of that self-acceptance piece? I feel called to actually just share a little process that I take a lot of people through, which has just come to me, which is ultimately, you guys would have heard me speak into when we put people on a pedestal or we put people in a pit. You know, that they're the two forms of judgment which take us away from our truth and ultimately take us away from love and that equality. And what happens is the best place of power. So if you find yourself feeling rejected by another person, right? It means obviously you haven't done all the work that needs to be done within you to get to that strong centered place to not identify with another person's behavior, but ultimately you are making that person who you feel rejected by, you're putting them on a pedestal. You are making them appear better than you in your mind, and you've lost the equality that sits in the middle. And so what I would say to you is identify potentially what are those key traits that you are seeing in that person who you are giving all your power to, that you're making better than you and making yourself not enough, and identify what those key traits, identify what those 3 key traits within that person are that you're not owning within yourself. And then what you've got to do is find how you have those traits within you. You know, maybe I'll just use an example. Maybe you see that person as really confident, you know, and you feel like you don't have that confidence. Well, I challenge you to find where it is in your life where you do have confidence. And I challenge you to keep going until you find the answer, because you always have the answers. And on the flip side of that, if you're on the other side of things and you're finding yourself and you have the courage to be honest with yourself and own it and see, you know, what are those judgments that how am I judging this other person? You know, putting them in that pit. What are those things that I'm judging in that person? And again, you know, identify those 3 key traits that you're judging in that person. And ultimately you need to own those within yourself, because I really believe that we are all things. You know, as much as we, you know, try to be a certain way, ultimately we all have access to the full spectrum of all emotions, all traits, all of it. And until you recognize that, trust within that, and accept that, then you're never going to have self-acceptance, and you're always going to be at the whim of other people's validation or, you know, judgments or criticisms or opinions of you. And ultimately, you're going to get in that obsessive state, and it's going to take you away from your truth. So I hope that that has been valuable to you. And just want to say a quick hi to Rich. Own your weaknesses and focus on your strengths. Yeah, and that's a really key one, you know. It's ultimately a big piece of why I do the personality psychology stuff that I do, because ultimately that finds our key strengths, because so many of us, we see something in another person which you know, and like I've just said, we are all things, but there are particular strengths to us when we bring it back down to the way that our brain is wired. And there is particular strengths that we can focus on in order to access more levels of our unique gifts. So ultimately we can live a life of fulfillment. But a lot of us try and focus on our weaknesses, which bring us down, and we're seeing, you know, our potential weakness, which is a strength in another person. We're allowing that to create this disproportionate, you know, belief around the lack of equality between people, and that ultimately can take us off our course. So thank you so much for that comment, Rich. Appreciate it. And Bill, how do you handle rejection by others? Exactly what I'm talking into right now. If you are noticing that rejection, you're really taking on and identifying with that rejection from others, it's ultimately because you are rejecting something or a lot of things within yourself. And it is your job to identify what are those pieces of yourself that you are currently rejecting. You know, do some journaling, do some introspection on this process, and really think, you know, why am I putting all my power into that other person? And what is it that I'm rejecting within me that's allowing me to give all this power away to this other person? Because like I said earlier, and if you didn't catch the beginning, Bill, you know, ultimately, when we take back that power and we become self-accepting and we use those rejections as our ability to uncover what pieces of ourselves we are rejecting, you know, ultimately we get to a point of self-acceptance. And then when people in our external world behave in a way that is rejecting of who we are, we actually can see it for what it is. It's the behavior. And like I said earlier, no other person will reject another if they are fully self-accepting of themselves. You only reject, you know, you project what you do. So you only reject if you're rejecting yourself. So you get to a point of witnessing that and having compassion for that other person and not identifying with it. Hope that that was helpful. Mirren from Washington, thank you for joining me. And yes, thank you. Give them no power. Yes. Definitely. Khan, thank you so much for joining me. And Sarah, I don't understand why they reject me when I don't believe I did something wrong. If I did and say sorry, that don't accept it and give me a silent treatment and hold a grudge on me, and they can't move on and the relationship fades. Yes, okay, so ultimately we reject others because we're rejecting ourselves. Okay, so that's a key piece to understand and to recognize. And you know what? I don't believe in, I think there's real power, and I might do another Facebook Live on this key point because it's pretty in depth, but ultimately, you know, what we should and shouldn't be apologizing for. Never, ever, ever apologize for the truth of who you are. And, you know, that's what happens when we're rejecting pieces of ourselves. We feel like we need to apologize for pieces of ourselves. And it's not until we get to a self-accepting, loving place that we can actually see those people's fears for what they are. And if they aren't going to go on that growth journey with us, unfortunately, some of those relationships are going to fade. Because I believe that relationships can be our greatest vehicle for personal growth, but they can also be our greatest hurdle to personal growth. If we are not, you know, if we're staying stuck, if we're staying small, if we're staying in relationships because we're seeking validation and we're holding back our truth, then, you know, they become a hurdle. And those sort of relationships, you know, ultimately they need to fade away. So, you know, I'm a big believer that, you know, not all relationships are meant to last the test of time, meant to last a lifetime. And ultimately, if you can find somebody who wants to go on that growth journey with you, and every step of the way, and you're growing and you're developing and you're never holding each other back, they're the relationships that we all truly desire. But those relationships where we feel like we have to hold back, we have to settle, we can't speak our truth, we're not accepted for this, or this. Ultimately, you know, do the work on you. If that person can't come along in that journey with you, then that will fade. And I believe that that's a good thing. I really do. I don't believe in, you know, failed relationships. I think that, you know, that we need to grow, you know, and and it's self-respecting and self-accepting that will get us there and get us to the kind of love that all of us are really truly here for. So thank you so much for those comments, Sarah. I hope that was helpful. And Eleanor, thank you for joining me, and awesome that you're loving and accepting yourself, Mirren. I love to hear that. Lorentu, like, I love your name. Sorry, I can't say it. Not bread, sugar, salt, max are the problem. The people who eat just too much. Okay, I'm not really sure what you mean by that. Maybe you can clarify that. Belinda, I'm going through that right now, so this is perfect. Oh, so grateful to hear that. You know, me too. I think we're always on this constant journey, and, you know, I don't think we ever stop. I think we're always constantly, you know, getting to that next layer and getting that next layer of growth. And I honor you for this journey that you're on, Belinda. It's awesome. So thank you so much. Carmen, thank you so much. Awesome to see you on my live. And yeah. And Thoreen, my friend, awesome to have you. So good to have you. And Habona, thank you for joining. Thank you so much, Mirren. I hope my energy and passion is not too over the top, but if it is, it's me. So I appreciate your comments so much. And guys, I did have a question that I needed to get to. If you guys have any questions that you want me to touch on right now, definitely drop them in the comments. This one came from Anantha. And the first question that he had for me was how to let go of relationships and stop seeking attention from people who don't value me. Now, this is ultimately, I think this is what that question inspired me to talk more into rejection for you guys, because I feel like our conversation today kind of touched a lot on the key points as to how you can let go of those relationships and stop seeking that attention from people who don't value you. And remember, rejection breeds obsession. So that's why we chase after those people who aren't valuing us, you know, and we're getting that obsessive state, which ultimately just reinforces to ourselves that we don't love, respect, accept ourselves. So we get trapped in this cycle. So ultimately, I love the self-awareness that Anantha has expressed here, like, because I believe that so many of us we're caught in these obsessive cycles of rejection, fear of rejection, and we're not even aware of it. So the first key element of that is self-awareness. So recognizing that there are relationships that you need to let go and that you are seeking attention from people who don't value you. That is the foundation for your success. So ultimately, you've got to do the work on you, like I've explained in this video today. But also, you know, find the value and the lessons that you can take from those relationships moving forward and not let them hold you back. Like at the moment, if you're staying stuck in these relationships that you know deep down you've got to let go of, it's ultimately your fear that, you know, your future won't be better without this relationship. You're putting this fantasy, or, you know, like my video yesterday, you're staying trapped in your security and safety, which, you know, it's staying in that uncomfortable comfort zone, you know. So that self-awareness piece, learning the lessons. What are the lessons I've learned here? How can I create a more compelling future for myself? How is life going to be better when I'm not in this relationship? But also taking the value from the relationship, the lessons you've learned, what it's taught you about yourself. Use that relationship. No relationship is ever a waste of time. There is so much value to be found when we reflect into our relationships and see what fears and triggers come up for us. Do the work, shine the light on those fears, and ultimately you'll be able to let go and move on. So I appreciate that question. And what else did I say here? I love to just check in with you guys. Yes, definitely, Sarah. Failed relationships, growth spurt. Yes, definitely. Glad that was resonating. Anantha, in one of the sessions, we discussed about how to stop showcasing and take power back in our hand. It's not only goes for seeking appreciation and recognition in what we do, it also goes for the person who we are, kind of life we live, kind of state we're in, and kind of things we're blessed with, our current situation. If we keep obsessed on things, we never rather we should love what we start vibrating positively. Yep. Definitely. I'll reply back to that long message in the comments after this video. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective. I appreciate that a lot. And I love it. Never seek attention from those who don't value you. Exactly, Mirren. Exactly. But when we're not valuing ourselves, ultimately we get trapped in those relationships, don't we? So yeah, that self-awareness, that's awesome. And Ali, thank you for joining. And Manolo, yes. And Magdalena, how to find courage within ourselves. Awesome question. And you know what, in order to find that courage within ourselves, sometimes it is in the action, it is in taking the step that we know we need to take that will allow us to generate that courage. So I really believe that courage isn't built in inaction. In fact, you know, the opposite is true. So in fact, courage starts to generate. You have to generate courage through your actions, and it doesn't have to be big action. I really say that when you can identify the tiny little first step and you take it, you generate it, ultimately you're going to build more and more of that courage. But there's definitely key ways of identifying and being able to generate more of that courage within yourself. A great tool that I like to use is what I call courage generators. So what you do with this is you ultimately reflect back in your life about times where, you know, you have had courage, where you could be proud of the decisions that you made, proud of the action that you took. You know, we've all had moments of courage in our lives where we were proud of ourselves for what we did, no matter how small. And if you can make a list of identifying a minimum of 10 of what I call courage generators, you have a list of those and you reflect on those and you add to that list, it is so powerful for getting you moving, getting you believing in that action as to, you know, taking those great steps forward for yourself and building more higher levels of that courage and that confidence. So I hope that that's a quick little tool that will be helpful to you, Magdalena. Thank you so much, guys. I better sign off. It's been awesome as always to connect with you guys, to interact with you guys. I'd love to hear more from you guys about, you know, what topics are really on point for you, what's interesting to you, what are you struggling with, what are your current challenges, any feedback you have for me, how I could make these sessions even more valuable for you. What could I be doing? You know, you guys tell me, I'm here for you guys. So I appreciate so much your feedback and your input and definitely your engagement. You guys rock. And Elliot, thank you for joining. And just got something here from Aoni, how to withstand lower wage career after a higher one due to life change. Okay, so I really like to take it back always to the mindset, you know. So, you know, the lower wage that you might be getting in terms of that, it's all about lifestyle, right? So what can you afford? You know, it's shifting that mindset of a way of lifestyle to a different lifestyle. And ultimately, you've got to find the reasons why that's a powerful move for you. So I'd probably want to have a deeper conversation so that I could feel like I was adding a bit more value to you, Aoni. So if you want to, definitely book in a 15-minute power session with me and give me a bit more info on that. And I would love to help and support you with shifting that mindset and getting more empowered. So thank you so much. And yes, Elliot, you just caught me at the end, but I appreciate so much that you've jumped on, and I hope that you get some value from the replay here. It's a really powerful message, one that I absolutely love, and I know you guys out there who I've been talking with have been struggling with this concept. So I hope it's been awesomely valuable, and thanks again so much, guys, for joining me. I love you all so much. I appreciate you all so much. I love the engagement. I love the feedback. So keep that coming, and definitely hit me with any questions, comments, ideas for topics that you guys have. And have an amazing rest of your day wherever you are in the world. And I absolutely am sending all of my love, light, blessings, and all of my positivity and energy to you guys. And yeah, rock your day. All right.